Consider the scenario of a source of intelligence, the subject, liaising with a problem to be solved, the object, in determined contexts. Let the subject contexts denote operational semantics of the involved agent's beliefs and biases, prior object experience, etc., while the object contexts encapsulate the knowledge representations of the object instance. A consistent semantic perspective of such an encounter might be postulated by a context external intelligence, say, a human observer, as resulting from a protocol between the subject and the object that lets corresponding contexts blend, provided such fusion, or what's termed contextualization, be coherent across multiple such liaisons. Diverse object instances, and diverse subject-agent instances. Further, the contextualization and the coherency thereof relate to the possibility of compatible definitions for subject and object contexts, possibility of mapping the contextualization outcome to some baseline semantic, say, the one that the observer understands, and possibility of defining a proximity metric vis-a-vis the baseline semantic space to allow for the notion of subjective interpretations, although varying, being valid if confined to some definition of semantic neighborhoods, where the semantic refers to a repository of subjective understanding, not mere representations of the knowledge. This characterization signifies several resonant traits associated with human intelligence and is termed contextual intelligence, with the directionality of fit from the object to the subject. However, this cognitive model does not yet encompass the most defining aspect of human intellect that flows from the subject to the object, the free-willed intelligence that reveals in a variety of flavors such as articulation, creativity, discovery, strategy, sense of humor, etc. To incorporate subjective free will as an integral part of this holistic assessment, the protocol postulate is refined by extending previously mentioned context externality of the observer to system externality, affording a systemic domain of influence for the subjective free will protocol to a more binding subject-object contract that not only enables contextualization but also endorses the systemic subject and object, and the semantic as consisting of object understanding in an ensemble of potentialities, imparting it a characteristic termed inward extensibility, the ability to expand inwards indefinitely within set limits. Such understanding gets eventualized within the system by exertion of subjective free will. Only eventualized knowledge is ready for further contextualization. Without loss of generality, we further contend the process of eventualization involves the subject conceiving alternate subjective interpretations of the object within already eventualized semantic neighborhoods, or newer semantic neighborhoods to better reconcile with the object contexts. By way of contextualizing the object with versions of the subject contexts that are transformed within the ambits of the prevailing subject-object contract. This is termed the acontextualization hypothesis. Whereas the process of eventualization is as depicted. Subjective free will is postulated to be the impetus behind the system-valid and contract-abiding subject-context transformations. This is termed the free will hypothesis. While the contextual component provides an innate purpose to the subjective intelligence, this component, that is termed acontextual intelligence, offers a motivational source to the subject, the motivation being to propagate within the systemic semantic space. In the context of the generic portrayal of subjective intelligence thus far, where the dynamics involve locating within and broadening the eventualized semantic space, intrinsic capabilities of the subject relate to the navigational abilities within the semantic. Moreover, the capabilities may not merely be programmed from outside to retain the integrity of the intelligence system. Such enablement of the subject is postulated to be heuristic in nature, as opposed to algorithmic, and at the very least comprise a tiebreaker criterion in case of competing semantic interpretations during contextualization, as the systemic rendition of Occam's razor, and a generic causal heuristic as a basis for associating disparate bits of understanding to let the subject agents negotiate the semantic while eventualizing. Such a heuristic provides a generic correlation between the cause, the effect, and the relating rule, laying foundations for deductive, inductive, and abductive system internal logic. The cross-cutting postulates of the subject-object contract, in intelligence system, and the potential semantic schema complete the picture of the cognitive model by providing a contextual relevance to the intelligence. Acontextual model of cognition, as it is termed, although rather cursory in detail and seemingly speculative at times, offers the characterization of the only known definitive intrinsic source of intelligence, the human intellect. Essentially, the model of human intellect in the postulated worldview is of perpetual cycles of alternating contextualization and acontextualization feeding off each other, drawing capabilities from an a priori heuristic enablement, scoped by the contexts provided by a systemic semantic between the systemic subject and the object engaged in a systemic contract. Though this affords a provisional understanding of the involved dynamics, it does not yet offer an operational definition to the process of intelligence generation. A more rigorous SWOT analysis of further research along this line of thought forms the agenda for upcoming technical whiteboard videos. Finally, the conceptual vocabulary introduced in this whiteboard presentation helps critique current trends in the fields of AI and AGI. As will be seen, such an appraisal of prevailing cognitive architectures and their evolution plays an important role in gaining insights into endowing operability to various abstract notions that are integral to the acontextual model of cognition.
Firstly, the content of this video and of 3 or 4 technical videos to follow is not peer reviewed as that. Any feedback, comments, questions, criticism or suggestions are welcome and appreciated. I believe this video could be beneficial and intellectually engaging for most people, irrespective of their technological or science-related backgrounds. Please do repost, retweet or share the video as appropriate if you find it interesting and stimulating. That said, this whiteboard video provides a mile-high view to a provisional model of human core cognition. Various other capabilities of the human mind, such as say, memory management, attention mechanism, or multiple perception modalities, etc., were scoped out of this model that focuses entirely on the core intelligence generation aspect of the human intellect. Some very abstract conceptions get introduced here, like the repository of understanding, the semantic as it was referred to in the video. Moreover, the talk in the video was of a potential semantic, a semantic that's comprised not just of the understanding that we currently have, but also the understanding that we don't, in some form, in some latent form. Absolutely ambiguous from an operability perspective. Than the heuristic development aspect. One thing worth taking a note here is that we were not really talking of the heuristic programming paradigm, but of developing heuristics as a replacement to the algorithms. But there is no really such thing as a non-algorithm or a non-instructional program that we can really think of. That looks like a dead end too. And finally, the subject-object contract. What's it constituted of? What are the contractual clauses? How are they formatted? What's the jurisdiction of this contract? How exactly does this contract impact the process of cognition? Lots of open questions there as well. These 3 abstractions, the potential semantic, development of heuristics, and subject-object contract, form the 3 main pillars that need to be understood if we were to subscribe to this particular line of thought. I'll get into some level of detail on all these aspects in the upcoming videos. In fact, answers to most of these questions are available on the A3ilabs website, and some of these were even referred to in the previous videos, like microalgorithms being the heuristic counterparts to the algorithms, and exam-based repositories for the potential semantic, etc. All in all, the acontextual model of cognition is not really implementable as proposed. Further dig down is going to be required to be able to explain the human cognition as well as to be able to design synthetic intelligences that can think through a problem like a human does and come out with autonomous or original responses. Finally, a transcript of this video is available on the A3ilabs website under the blog post section for those of you who might want to check it out.